In this dark chamber, horrors beyond your imagination lurk in the shadows. They are not your usual monsters. They aren't even human. They are the wax Prometheuses of the art world, and they will fool the mind and the eye. You can never be too sure if these models are real, as if a madman had crafted them from unfortunate human beings. Watch your back and be warned. Welcome to Madam Tussaud's Chamber of Horrors. The haunt industry is bustling, but where did it all start? From cutting-edge, not scary farm to Hollywood horror nights, those attractions would not be what they are today without Philippe Curtius and Madame Tussaud. You have seen inspirations of their legacy on the screen in The Mystery of the Wax Museum from 1933, House of Wax from 1953, one of my personal favorites, hello Vincent Price, and of course the gore-tastic remake House of Wax from 2005, which funnily enough had the entire set made from wax. Madame Tussaud would have been very impressed. Before she was Madame Tussaud, she was Anna Maria or Marie Groschlotz. In 1761, Marie grew up in Switzerland, where her mother was a housekeeper for the physician and wax modeler Dr. Philippe Curtius. In those days, wax models were used to study anatomy, but, as finding cadavers or corpses was quite difficult. We all know what happened in Frankenstein. Just kidding. But corpses decay, whereas wax is a little bit more preservable. Just beware of open flames. In 1765, Curtius was encouraged to retire from his medical career, and Marie and her mother moved with him to Paris to focus on wax modeling as an art form rather than an anatomical guide. This is when he began working on his first official exhibition, which was shown in 1770. Philippe took Marie on as a pupil and apprentice. As Marie's skills improved, Curtius opened a second location in the Boulevard du Temple in 1782, where he housed the Cavern of Thieves, a precursor to the famous Chamber of Horrors. In 1777, Marie created one of her first notable wax figures, a model of the late French writer Voltaire. She was fortunate enough to be able to cast him 2 months before his death. Talk about good timing, but they couldn't get good casting for Ghost in the Shell. That's weird. 1789, the French Revolution turned the tide and the public's opinion on their wax works as they believed them to be royal sympathizers. This belief nearly got her beheaded by the guillotine during the Reign of Terror, but someone had a good head on their shoulders and kind of, and employed Tussauds to create death masks of anyone of importance who had been beheaded, including the famous Marie Antoinette. And yes, it's just as horrific as you can imagine it to be, a freshly severed head in her lap, only to be forever preserved in wax. Some would later dub her as the decapitation artist. Don't worry. Madame Tussaud wasn't putting actual bodies into the wax like Professor Henry Jared, played by Vincent Price. But the wax models' heads were soon put on pikes and put on display so the populace could see the evil oppressor had been brought to justice. Woo! These heads were soon put on display in the Chamber of Horrors, along with a real guillotine from the French Revolution Tussaud herself purchased, as it was believed to have been the same blade that beheaded Marie Antoinette. Tussaud was aware of dark tourism and sensationalism, which made Chamber of Horrors one of the most popular exhibitions of the time. We'll get back to that momentarily. Remember Uncle Curtius? Well, Marie's skills impressed him so much so that when he died in 1794, he left his collection to her as well as his entire estate. Ooh. From then on, Marie would own her own waxworks business. Marie had grown up in a family of executioners, a fact that she had done her best to hide, as families of executioners usually always marry in families of executioners. So after the revolution, her worries about her family's reputation were a thing of the past when Marie married Francois Tussauds. But misfortune didn't really end, as Francois was a bit of a greedy, money-hungry husband. There's other titles for that, but it's not appropriate for this channel. In 1802, she decided to start a new life in England with her eldest son to start a traveling waxworks museum. She was on the road for 36 years and once hit a bit of a snag when on her way to Ireland, she became shipwrecked and had to swim to shore, sadly losing a big chunk of her inventory. I wonder if she used any of the arms to, get around. It's another question I have for you. There was no problem, however, as Tussauds was very brutal with her figures and changed out their heads sometimes by chopping them off if the news changed, such as a new celebrity couple or they were no longer in the limelight. Off with their heads. After those 36 years, Madam Tussaud and Sons decided to make a stable location in the now famous Baker Street location in London. Tussauds would use revolutionary methods of marketing to get her business out there, which has helped her legacy remain alive to this day. And I'm pretty sure some of those methods inspired some social media stuff to this day. There, the Chamber of Horrors remained active until 2016, when the entire exhibition was shut down due to multiple incidences. If you can guess what that means, including castmate injuries. This information destroyed any of my dreams of going to the Chamber of Horrors, by the way, because when I was a kid, I had a book called Places to Know, and inside the book, it was the Chamber of Horrors. And I thought, that's pretty fascinating. I would like to go there someday. And during the research of this episode, I found out all of the locations have been shut down. So, personal antidote. Thought I'd put that in there, but RIP. Okay. The Chamber of Horrors took on a more haunted house feel in the 70s with actors and special effects, and it was a popular Halloween attraction. It housed many wax models of famous criminals, terrifying historical figures such as Vlad the Impaler, famous murders, and even a snazzy torture chamber. Yes, they had a nice rack. They even showed the historic moment of Madam Tussaud herself seeing the executed bodies during the Revolution. How historic! I have reached out to Madam Tussaud's London location, but have not heard back about what happened to the many spooky wax models from the Chamber of Horrors. I have been told that at least one figure was saved due to historical significance. I would figure that they have saved the guillotine that Marie purchased all those years ago, but just because the Chamber of Horrors has come to an end, that does not mean Madam Tussaud does not embrace Halloween. Different locations have, well, they hold various events, which I have been told as of this episode airing that some events are still under wraps. However, the New York location still holds its Madam Tussaud's After Dark event, where they close the museum early and the entire wax museum becomes a haunted wonderland. Also, the Hollywood location is holding a whole new event called Illusions of Horror, an immersive, selfie-centric, larger-than-life abstract installation starring many of our favorite classic monsters, including Dracula, Frankenstein, and even the Mummy. Keep your eye out for the upcoming events on MadamTussauds.com. Well, watch out for abandoned wax museums or any abandoned suburban areas, and let me know in the comments below what your experience at the Lake Chamber of Horrors was like. And don't forget to subscribe and check out PopNerdTV.com for articles, reviews, and more. You can also check us out on Patreon and Teespring. I am your host, Cierra Caballero, and stay spooky, my fiends. Tussauds Chamber of Horrors. Da, 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 da. Scoochies?
Yeah, you need to go to the left.
Boom, boom.
If you go to your left, it's a little...
Metal breakdown.